Meet Pete. He holds a steady job, receives a predictable paycheck, and follows society's safe path perfectly. Yet, strangely, Pete never feels wealthy. He just feels like a highly paid rental in a corporate machine. This is a salary trap, a subtle economic cage designed to keep Pete working until he is 65. The system is not broken. It was built this way to ensure a steady supply of obedient workers. Pete trades his most valuable asset, his time, for a fixed amount of currency that constantly loses value. He believes a salary provides security, but in reality, it provides a ceiling on his potential financial growth. As long as Pete's income is tied directly to his hours, he can never truly buy his freedom. Wealthy people do not work for salaries. They own systems that generate money while they sleep or play. Pete is playing a rigged game where the rules are written by employers, governments, and the banking system. To escape, Pete must understand why selling his time is the most inefficient way to build true wealth. Today, we expose the mechanics of this trap and show Pete exactly how to dismantle the cage. Let's examine the first major bar in the cage, the mathematical impossibility of trading time for money. Pete sells his time in hour-long blocks, but he has a strictly limited supply of hours to sell. No matter how hard Pete works, he hits a hard cap because he cannot manufacture more time. Scalability is the secret to wealth, and a salary is the exact opposite of a scalable income model. If Pete stops working today, his income hits zero tomorrow, meaning he has zero actual financial momentum. The CEO of Pete's company does not trade time. He leverages the time of thousands of Petes. Pete is a leverage for someone else's dream, acting as a cog that can be replaced instantly. True wealth requires decoupling time from money, creating machines that work regardless of Pete's physical presence or effort. A salary tricks Pete into thinking he is safe, while actually leaving him vulnerable to a single decision. One layoff, one recession, or one health issue destroys Pete's entire financial foundation in a single afternoon. This fragility is the price Pete pays for the illusion of a steady, predictable bi-weekly direct deposit. He is trading upside potential for short-term certainty, a trade that historically keeps the middle class broke. But the limitations of time are not the only problem. The tax code is also weaponized against him. Pete is a W-2 employee, which means he exists in the most heavily taxed bracket in the nation. The government takes a massive bite out of Pete's paycheck before the money even hits his bank account. This is pay-as-you-earn, a system designed to prioritize the government's cash flow over Pete's personal financial health. Business owners play by different rules. They spend money first and pay taxes only on what is left. Pete earns, pays taxes, and lives on a remainder. Business owners earn, spend, and pay taxes on the remainder. This subtle order of operations allows business owners to grow wealth faster, using pre-tax dollars for expenses. Pete buys his car, phone, and computer with after-tax dollars, making every purchase 20% more expensive. The tax code incentivizes job creators and investors, while penalizing those who simply sell their labor for cash. As Pete earns more, he moves into higher brackets, disincentivizing him from working harder for that next raise. He is running up a down escalator. The faster he runs, the more resistance the system applies against him. Unless Pete shifts income from salary to capital gains, he will always be the government's primary revenue source. But even if Pete navigates taxes, he faces an invisible thief that steals from him every single night. Pete works for currency, but the value of that currency is being diluted by the central banks daily. Inflation is not just rising prices. It is a systematic destruction of the purchasing power of Pete's salary. Pete gets a 3% raise and feels successful, But inflation rose by 4% that same year. In real terms, Pete actually took a pay cut, yet he celebrates because the nominal number went up. Corporate salaries rarely keep pace with the true cost of housing, education, and healthcare over long periods. This lag creates a frog in boiling water effect where Pete slowly becomes poorer without realizing it. The system relies on Pete accepting nominal raises while his standard of living quietly and steadily erodes away. Asset prices inflate while wages stagnate, widening the gap between those who own and those who work. Pete is trying to fill a bucket with water, but inflation is drilling holes in the bottom. He cannot outwork a currency that is losing value faster than he can earn it through labor. To win, Pete must own assets that inflate with the currency, rather than working for the currency itself. Unfortunately, Pete is hesitant to buy assets because of the psychological comfort provided by the steady paycheck. The salary trap is reinforced by golden handcuffs, benefits that make leaving the job feel incredibly dangerous. Health insurance, matching 401ks, and paid vacation days are designed to increase Pete's dependency on the employer. These perks act as a sedative, calming Pete's ambition to strike out on his own and build equity. Pete tolerates a toxic boss or boring work because the fear of losing benefits outweighs his desire for freedom. The system creates a learned helplessness where Pete believes he cannot survive without the corporate umbilical cord. He upgrades his lifestyle to match his salary, locking the handcuffs tighter with every new luxury car payment. Now, Pete must work to service his debt, transforming him from a free agent into an indentured servant. The more he earns, the more he spends, and the more terrified he becomes of losing the income. This fear kills creativity and risk-taking, the two exact traits Pete needs to escape the financial rat race. Employers know the psychology perfectly. They pay Pete just enough to keep him from quitting, but no more. Pete does just enough work not to get fired, creating a cycle of mediocrity that wastes his potential. To break these handcuffs, Pete needs to change his definition of risk and start building his own raft. The exit door from the salary trap is marked equity, which means owning a piece of the value. Pete must transition from being a consumer of income to being an owner of assets and systems. He doesn't have to quit his job tomorrow. He can start by building a side hustle bridge. In the evenings, Pete builds a business, writes code, or creates content that works while he is away. This new income is not tied to hours. It is tied to value provided to the marketplace. Or, Pete takes his savings and buys rental property, forcing his money to become his new employee. Every dollar Pete invests in equity is a soldier fighting for his freedom from the corporate salary trap. The goal is to reach the crossover point, where investment income exceeds the expenses of his daily life. Once Pete crosses that line, his salary becomes optional and the power dynamic shifts entirely in his favor. He can now negotiate freely, take risks, or walk away because he is no longer dependent on the system. Ownership allows Pete to participate in the upside growth of the economy rather than just servicing it. He moves from the passenger seat of the economy into the driver's seat, controlling his own financial destiny. The hardest part of this journey for Pete is not the mechanics. It is the psychological reprogramming required. Pete was raised to be a good employee, to follow instructions, and to seek validation from authority figures. To escape the trap, he must learn to think like a producer, a creator, and an investor. He must accept that income can be variable and that stability is something he creates, not something given. Pete stops asking, "How much does this pay?" and starts asking, "How much equity do I own?" He stops looking for a better boss and starts looking for better customers and better investment opportunities. This shift is lonely because most of Pete's friends and family are still deeply asleep in the matrix. They will warn him about the risks of business, unaware that their safe jobs are the real risk. Pete must trust his vision over their fears, recognizing that the crowd is usually wrong about money. He educates himself on tax law, market cycles, and sales, skills that were never taught in school. Every book he reads and course he takes loosens the bolts of the cage a little bit more. Pete is realizing that the salary was never the prize. It was the bribe to give up his dreams. The salary trap is real, but the door is unlocked, and Pete simply has to push it open. It requires short-term sacrifice for long-term gain, a trade that very few people are willing to make. But Pete is ready to stop building someone else's castle and start laying the bricks for his own. Don't just watch Pete's journey. Look at your own income streams and ask if you are truly free. If this changed the way you think about money, work, or security, that's the point. Most financial stress isn't about effort. It's about structure. Once you see the system clearly, you can start making decisions that actually protect your time, energy, and future. If you found this useful, take a moment to like the video. Subscribe if you want more videos like this, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. Thanks for watching.